Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Carolina Hassett. Thank you for joining us. After years of bad news, new data from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has some good news for Arizona drivers. Cronkite News reporter John Brown has the details from our Washington bureau.
With COVID-19 in the rearview mirror, cars are returning to the roads, and more cars means more car crashes. New federal data shows U.S. traffic fatalities rose 7% in the first 3 months of this year. But in Arizona, the numbers were headed in the other direction. Traffic deaths fell 31.4% in the first quarter.
But again, I am surprised, but I'm very happy surprised, and I'm glad that in Arizona we see a downward trend.
That was the fourth steepest percentage drop in the nation, trailing only the much smaller states of Rhode Island, North Dakota, and Montana. Experts said the increase in deaths nationally could be the result of having more people on the road post-pandemic, combined with reckless driving and speeding.
Now, state-by-state numbers may jump around. But overall, nationally, the trend is unfortunately an increase, and a rather sharp increase in traffic deaths.
Gutierrez said he believes the return to normal traffic flows might be having the opposite effect in the state, causing people to drive more carefully. And he hopes traffic fatalities continue to trend downward for the rest of the year. And so far, at least, they have. The most recent numbers from his office show there were 398 traffic fatalities, including car, pedestrian, and bike deaths through July. That compares to 700 through the same period in 2021. In Washington, John Brown, Cronkite News.
While the highway safety numbers continue to look good for Arizona, experts say this is not the time to let your guard down. With heavy Labor Day traffic coming up, drivers need to be prepared. Governor Doug Ducey arrived in Taiwan on Tuesday for a visit focused on semiconductors, the chips used every day in electronics. Ducey plans to meet with suppliers about the new $12 billion Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation being built in Arizona. He will meet with the Taiwan president, business leaders, and university representatives in the semiconductor industry. Ducey hopes to attract these companies to Arizona. Recently, a law passed increasing government spending on expanding the semiconductor industry. New protection against COVID is on the way. The FDA is looking to approve some new booster shots. Pfizer's updated booster shot is expected to be approved by the Food and Drug Administration within the week. This booster is designed to combat the Omicron strains of the virus, which account for most new COVID cases. Pfizer says the new vaccine also protects against older variants. A Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Vaccine Advisory Committee is scheduled to meet Thursday and Friday to discuss the new booster. Moderna has also submitted an Omicron-targeted booster to the FDA, but neither booster has undergone any type of clinical trial. More than 800 unsheltered individuals living near downtown Phoenix got an opportunity to connect with a number of services for help, all in one location. Clients who attended the Project Connect event met with professionals who help with employment services, medical care, housing resources, and more. According to an executive director for Human Services Campus, the goal is to host these events every 6 weeks in different areas of the valley in order to bring resources straight to clients. The overall goal of the event is to tackle a much larger issue.
At the end of the day, we're ending homelessness. So whether it's, working on systemic issues that we're trying to find solutions for, or whether it's ending homelessness now today for anybody.
One of the clients we spoke to said he appreciates the event and received medical help from Circle the City, one of the many vendors in attendance. The Hamilton football program won their appeal to the Arizona Interscholastic Association this morning. The move revokes their probation and lifts the playoff ban for the upcoming season. The Huskies were punished for recruiting violations committed by defensive coordinator Tim Doherty, who has since been placed on administrative leave. The AIA Executive Board acknowledged Hamilton's efforts to take corrective action, lifting the probation on the football program while placing a warning on the entire athletic department.
we never want to be in a situation where we're punishing students or punishing athletes. And so we appreciate the reflection that was done by the Chandler School District. Appreciate Superintendent Frank Narducci and his direct involvement in their reflection and their further corrective action as they move forward.
Hamilton is expected to make another run at a state title. They kick off their season Friday at home against Centennial. After the break, we take a look back at stories concerning transportation, from more people riding mass transit to some new technology to make cycling safer.
Such a thrill to do this.
Let's start having some fun.
You can do anything.
Experience something personal.
A place of imagination.
I can go anywhere I want to go.
There's something for everyone with Passport on the PBS Video app.
Gas prices are dropping, but if you filled up your tank lately, you know that prices are still at a pain point. According to AAA, a gallon of regular gas averages $5 in Arizona. I took a look at how high prices at the pump are impacting public transit and whether more people are heading to their local bus or light rail. Public transit, an essential service for many traveling around the valley. But in recent months, riders say that buses and light rail are more crowded.
Now people are starting to come back because of the gas prices that are going up, so we see more people coming on a bus than before.
When the pandemic hit, many people quit riding public transit. Working from home became the new norm, and the need for public buses and light rail became less popular. Now people are coming back to work, and with gas averaging over $5 a gallon, public transit is an appealing option for more people.
So when we compare our ridership this spring to looking at the spring 1 year ago in 2021, we've certainly seen an increase in ridership on both bus and rail.
Compared to May 2021, Valley Metro says bus ridership has increased 17%, rail is up 38%, and Valley Metro's van pool program has seen an increase of 44% in May of 2022.
We have seen an increase in people requesting our van pool program, so we can attribute a lot of that to gas prices as well.
It may not only be gas prices driving increased ridership.
During COVID, we were so low because of requiring essential trips only. So as our economy is starting back up again, people are returning to work, we are seeing an increase in ridership.
Valley Metro says that major events like Fan Fusion and sports games have brought people back. Still, riders like Salvatore say prices at the pump are feeling the increase.
So before COVID, the buses were 100% full every day. Now you see maybe 10%, of the bus occupancy. But it's many reasons. It's not just the gas prices. Some people went back, started working remotely during COVID, and didn't come back because they have that flexibility. But I would say most people coming back to the buses is because of gas prices.
Valley Metro officials say that transit schedules were adjusted due to construction and pandemic guidelines, but as of this month, the schedules have returned to the pre-pandemic ones.
One local energy company is doing their part to help those affected by war in Ukraine. Valeria Rodriguez tells us about that, as well as how they are teaching people to apply the necessary skills to help their communities using solar panel generators.
These solar panels are being shipped across the world to help communities impacted by war. Tempe-based New Use Energy is collaborating with the Navajo Nation to create solar-powered generators to ship to Ukraine.
They will be used in basically anyone who needs power, right? Whether it's a field hospital, for communications. So anywhere they need power where the power is out, they'll be able to use our equipment.
There are 4 models of these solar panel generators. Once charged, they can power everything from laptops to appliances to hospital equipment. Most of the generators are easy to set up and move around.
And the idea is to easily unfold it.
These solar generators are being put together by members of the Navajo Nation. They're in Tempe to learn how to assemble the generators as part of a Navajo program to empower Native people through education.
We look for partners to serve specific markets where they can assemble and distribute our products to serve their own communities.
The women from Navajo Nation will be able to apply what they have learned to help their own community, where the solar generators are already being used.
These are really good people to know. This is a good connection to have, to be able to provide those things
to our community.
One shipment of solar generators has already made its way to the war-torn regions of Ukraine. In Tempe, Valeria Rodriguez, Cronkite News.
Another 8 pallets of solar panels and generators are expected to ship out this week to help in Ukraine.
Arizona ranks high as a dangerous state for bicyclists, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. But a team of engineers and students at Northern Arizona University want to make cycling safer with a sensor that picks up on dangers, according to Cronkite News' Atria Maneshny.
A sensor
that is the brain of the whole system.
To revolutionize biking safety.
We're going to see a change right here.
Is coming out of an engineering lab at NAU. A dedicated team of students have been working on these sensors since last year.
Like on a weekly basis, we probably spend like 10 hours a week at least working on it.
The idea started back in 2018, when vehicles with safety technology were becoming popular. The engineering team decided to try similar technology on a bicycle.
So that's why we thought that would be a good opportunity for us to start a project that we study how do we connect those bicycles together to build a network for cyclists.
The students did hands-on work to figure out how to develop efficient sensors.
Also coming up with the layout for the system container was pretty fun because we had to figure out how to optimize it so it was space efficient and there's no like overheating with any of the components and stuff. So
figuring all this out is meant to make cycling more enjoyable and safer. Cycling in the U.S. isn't a common way to commute, but here in Flagstaff, about 8% of people use bikes to get around.
We kind of have this category of bicyclists that we call interested but concerned, where maybe they're interested in using a bike, but if they don't feel safe on the facility, they likely won't.
The bike sensors could help. Each sensor identifies potential hazards and detects bumps in the road.
So if there's a crack or like a stick that you run over, it has an X, Y, and Z axis. So however you run over it, those axes will change.
By running some initial tests, the students have found that
so this is a pretty rough road.
There are lots of cracks in the bike lanes in the Flagstaff area.
The sensors are paired with a mobile app. And once the hazard is detected, the cyclist will be notified of its location so they can avoid it and ride safely.
We're doing this project to show people where is a bomb so the government or the clients will know there is a bomb they need to fix or there's a very big bomb so you need to watch out.
Ho and his team hope that cycling becomes a safe and popular form of transportation with this technology.
If we can provide safer, informed cycling environment that the people are willing to use cycling as their daily transportation mode.
In Flagstaff, Atria Maneshny, Cronkite News.
The next steps for these engineers are to create a prototype bike and potentially manufacture it in the future.
Top Gun Maverick is skyrocketing at the box office, and according to IMDb, it has grossed over $900 million worldwide since being released at the end of May. Cronkite News reporter Madison Thomas met the aerial coordinator who made this film come to life.
The blockbuster film is already one of the most popular movies of the summer. The movie's use of aircraft and aerial scenes sets it apart from other movies. But if you're thinking this was all done through CGI, I talked to someone who will tell you it wasn't. Scenes from Top Gun Maverick like this one look real, because it is actually real. One of the people responsible for making this happen is pilot Kevin LaRosa.
Know that every time we see a jet or anything on camera in Top Gun Maverick, there's a real aircraft there. Every time we see a cast member in a cockpit, they are in an F-18 doing those maneuvers.
LaRosa is a third-generation pilot and second-generation aerial coordinator and stunt pilot. He was learning how to fly at an age when you may have been learning how to drive. He grew up following in the footsteps of his idol, his dad.
Even if he wasn't my dad, I would look up to this person and go, man, I want to do what he does. And that gave me this drive in life to do that.
Throughout his career, he has worked on films including Transformers: The Last Knight, The Avengers, and Iron Man. But this one raised the bar. The crew strived for perfection.
A huge testament to Tom Cruise and the Paramount team for going through the expense and the effort to train the cast. Our cast literally basically had to learn how to fly. We started them into this training program that Tom was driving.
The film was originally set to be released a couple years ago, but the COVID-19 pandemic got in the way of that.
LaRosa says this is a movie that was made to be watched on the big screen with the surround sound.
I've sat in movie theaters and I've watched grown men cry. I've watched people spill their popcorn and cheer. That is the best feeling in the world. That's all the crew's blood, sweat, and hard work on the big screen being delivered and people receiving it in the way they are.
LaRosa says the film has a natural progression and continuously gets more intense. The final sequence of the movie is his favorite.
It looked as epic and dynamic and crazy to me sitting in the pilot seat of the camera jet and camera helicopter as it does on the big screen.
We talked to LaRosa's dad, and he says he could not be more proud than his son. His son has become better than he could ever be. In Los Angeles, Madison Thomas, Cronkite News.
If you do heavy lifting for a living, there's a new product that might make it easier. Engineers in Phoenix have developed new wearable technology they hope will improve workplace safety. Something as light as 8 pounds could be the future in helping those in highly physical work fields. Engineers from the WearTech Applied Research Center in Arizona State University have partnered up in creating an exoskeleton that will alleviate the amount of force the body has to absorb.
It was a device that we actually built and tested on aerial porters at the Air Force at Travis Air Force Base. So it was a really great project because we built, designed something, and then actually tested it over 8 weeks at the Air Force.
This summer, the organization is going to test out on other groups of people that tend to have back straining work, like Amazon warehouse workers and field workers. Every year, more than $31 million is being spent on disability benefits for retired aerial porters. The exoskeleton is designed to lower that cost.
Expect a massive reduction in back injuries, shoulder injuries, and that will keep people working longer, they'll be more productive, and they'll have a better lifestyle.
The exoskeleton is projected to expand the Phoenix and Maricopa County economy by creating more technology companies such as WearTech.
The analysis that we did of the state funding shows that the state government's return on investment will be 8-to-1 over a 10-year period.
Although this device has only been tested over an 8-week trial, engineers are hoping to see tangible results in the next 10 years.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us. Break It Down is next. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Break It Down is brought to you in part by Mayo Clinic and viewers like you.
First of all, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of our educators out there who are doing incredible things for our children across the state. They are shaping the next generation, and it's such an important profession. It impacts everything: the economy, healthcare, the communities directly. And unfortunately, Arizona is continuing to see a teacher shortage. As a former educator myself and someone who recruited teachers into the classroom, all who I care deeply about, I just am really excited to figure this out and break down this topic with Dr. Driscoll. I'm thrilled that you're here with me today, and thank you for breaking it down.
No problem. I'm glad to be here.
All right, Dr. Driscoll. So I saw recently some data that came out at the beginning of 2021. It said that 27% of teacher vacancies across the state remain unfilled. And you're the perfect person to talk about this because of your extensive background working in schools directly. So tell me, what do you think is going on? What do you think is causing this teacher shortage?
I actually think it's a multitude of things. So first, I would say the biggest thing is that we haven't made teaching a attractive position in the media, in the mainstream, how we treat our teachers. So the first thing is to make it, I call it sexy. Teaching is not a sexy profession, you know, and so that's a big part of it. Another thing is just the pay. And so in Arizona, it's kind of unique, depending on which publication you read, we're 48th to 49th to 47th. And so we have to be competitive, but we also have to do a better job of explaining to people the benefits, not only salary-wise, but your work schedule, the quality of life, that I don't think we do a good job of doing in our marketing. And so that's another big thing why. And then also is special ed. So you say 27%, but if you look at that 27%, I probably say 80% of that is special education teachers. We're seeing across the board, across the nation, shortage in special ed. And the district I currently work in, we had at the beginning of the year 70 positions, special ed positions unfilled. And so the bulk of our positions that are that go unfilled are special ed. And we're just not seeing a lot of those teachers coming out of our teacher preparation programs.
Got it. What about those teachers that are currently in the classrooms, right? For that retention piece, what do you think needs to happen to move that needle to ensure that we're keeping our educators to continue through to this fall?
One is to show them their worth. And what I mean by that is like the environment that they work in. And so I would tell you, if you go and look across districts across the state, the schools that don't have high turnover rate are the schools where the leaders has a captivated audience and created an environment that people want to work in. We also need to make sure our benefits, our extra fringe packages are competitive across the board. That helps, but it's really the work environment. People have to want to work for people that they enjoy working with. And if we don't do a good job in putting our schools with leaders that teachers want to work for, that's another thing that ends up happening with our teachers in terms of retention. The biggest thing I see from our surveys, and I look at our national, our district, and our state, is the work experience, the work in the relationships they have with their supervisors is one of the number one causes why teachers leave our profession that are already in.
With the school leader pipeline, how would you say that is looking in Arizona, right? We think and focus so much on the teacher retention piece of it. How about our school leader and principal pipeline? Where are we at with that?
I think we have some room there to grow. I know institutions like ASU are doing a phenomenal job of getting us new leaders, but I think also from the district standpoint, we have to prepare our leaders for the roles in which they're going to encompass. And I think that's on us because we're putting leaders in situations where they're not successful for. So one of the big things I would tell you about research is we put our most inexperienced principals in our toughest schools. And so why do we do that? And we wonder why we have a shortage of principals and a turnaround and turnover rate of our principals as well. And it's because we're not setting them up for success. So we have to give principals the resources so they can be successful, so they can create those environments that cultivate learning and people want to work there and excited to be there. But we have to set them up for those success and give them the resources to do that as well.
When it's your first year and you don't have that experience, anything goes, right? I mean, it is such a learning curve. So I think to your point, having principals, school leaders, mentor teachers, that community support is really important.
And to piggyback off of that, what you're saying there, think about your first year of teaching. You probably were told, here, go to this mentor teacher, and they're going to help you. And so one of the things I would tell you is, as a principal, we need to say, no, first year teacher, we need to have touch points with you so you stay connected. Did you know that during this week, report cards are going to go out? Are you prepared to give report cards? And so helping teachers that, and that's another way of retaining teachers as we get them in there environments.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And what about with your experience, obviously, in your role and being within the education industry? Are you seeing the shortage be specifically in, depending on like the demographics of the communities? So for example, in lower income communities, or is this also happening in more affluent communities as well?
Yeah, I would tell you the general is we see it a lot in our lower income communities.
Got it.
And I tell you that because those are perceived to be tougher. But I would tell you in some of our low income communities where we have fabulous principals there, they don't have the turnaround. They don't have that turnover rate. So, but historically and demographically, yes, we see much more in our higher, lower socioeconomic schools than in our more affluent areas, the turnover rate.
Yeah, and I'm sure, Dr. Driscoll, there's got to be some bright spots to this, right? I'm sure there are some schools and principals that are doing the ideas and resources that you mentioned earlier. What are some bright spots that you are seeing to try to close this teacher shortage?
You know, and I don't want to steal the thunder, but we're in Mesa have a partnership with ASU with the Next Education Workforce, and those we're redefining what we do for education, and it goes back to those resources. So we're using a teaming approach to say it kind of that phrase, it takes a village to raise.
Yes.
And we're having multiple people touching our students, where instead of having one teacher, they have 4. And so that has been really awesome. I'm seeing great results from that in terms of the teacher experience, where teachers are saying, man, I enjoy coming to work because I have a team, I have all this support. I see administrators being excited because they feel like they're doing impacting the education, but impacting the learning environment for their students. And then in turn, their students are seeing the benefits for it. And so we're seeing that in pockets. We have that in affluent schools, but we also have that in our most needy schools, where they were struggling to get teachers to actually even come to their school because they weren't attractive. They're now not having that because they have created a pipeline of teachers through their school. So I'm excited about that.
I hope this conversation continues everywhere. And Dr. Driscoll, thank you so much for breaking down this topic with me. And I really appreciate your perspective on this.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
This hour of local news is made possible by contributions from the Friends of PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you. If you have comments about Arizona PBS News, please contact us at one of the addresses on your screen. Thank you.